3 people were recently confirmed dead from the Lassa fever virus in Kano state, while 2 others are in isolation following an outbreak in the state, which was said to have been brought in to the Kano teaching hospital by a pregnant woman. Now, 5 consultants, over 15 doctors, several other physicians are said to have tried saving a senior consultant, Dr. Habib Musa, who eventually died as it took 2 days to get a positive blood test. Correspondent Idris Jibrin takes a closer look at the unfortunate events that led to his death.
You may call it occupational hazard, but for Safia and Murja, the death of their husband is much more than that for obvious reasons. He left his mother behind and over 10 children.
His death is a great loss to immediate family, extended family, community, and the society in general. Is a great loss to us.
Health workers at the Kano Teaching Hospital suspect that Dr. Habib and his colleagues got the Lassa fever virus from a patient that was rushed to this antenatal unit, presumed to be suffering from prolonged labor. She was rushed to surgery and later to ICU, where she eventually died. This ICU is a highly restricted area, but after a thorough process of disinfection, we were given access to the place where the first Lassa victim was temporarily isolated.
But isolation is basically 2 types. If you want to exercise it negatively, you can exercise it negatively. If you want to exercise it positively, that is when you are trying to protect the patient because the patient's immunity is low and your own is okay. There is possibility for you as a healthcare personnel to even infect the patient. So that is when we are calling it positive isolation. But in negative isolation, the patient is likely to infect other people.
In quick succession, 2 other doctors also died.
What we are doing is to ensure all the persons that were in close contact with one index case, that is the woman that died, and the health care workers, all their contacts are traced and then followed up.
Their deaths were eventually confirmed to be from the Lassa virus, but it took 48 hours to find out as their blood samples were sent to Irua in Edo State for testing.
The classical presentations were not there, but then if they could test the blood and confirm it positive for Lassa, then I will surrender. And that was what happened later, 48 hours later.
Hospital staff say the lack of facility for isolation could have contributed to death of the doctors.
We should have a reference lab where we can test. We have RT-PCR, we can do ELISA. We should have these equipment in all our hospitals.
Although the Kano state government says precautionary measures have been put in place, however, doctors believe that prevention is better than cure. Idris Jibrin, Channels Television News.
Let's bring you some business news now. Here's Bisi Adebayo.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Hello everyone, welcome to Business News. OPEC oil output plunged in January to a multi-year low as top exporter Saudi Arabia and other Gulf members over-delivered on the new production limiting accord. According to a latest survey by Reuters, the 13-member organization of the petroleum exporting countries pumped 28.35 million barrels per day on average this month. January's output was the lowest by OPEC since 2009, the year in which the group implemented its biggest ever supply cuts due to the financial crisis. OPEC, Russia and other allies known as OPEC Plus agreed to deepen an existing supply cut by 500,000 barrels from January the 1st, 2020. Well, let's take some company earnings reports now. Listed energy firm Kano reports an impressive performance in its 2019 full-year result as at December the 31st. The company's revenue grew to 139.75 billion naira, up from 122.21 billion naira reported the same period in 2018. At the same time, the company's gross profit jumped by more than 10% to 13.71 billion naira. Its pre-tax profit was higher at 2.77 billion naira. After-tax profit jumped from 1.79 billion naira to 1.98 billion naira, while its earnings per share rose from 256 kobo to 286 kobo last year. And on the other hand, it's a mixed earnings result for hospitality company Transcorp Hotel as it reports a higher revenue of 19.49 billion naira in its full-year result for 2019, and that's compared to 16.47 billion naira reported in 2018. The company's gross profit also jumped from 12.24 to 14.71 billion naira, but its pre-tax profit dipped from 5.18 billion naira to 1.3 billion naira. After-tax profit fell from 3.87 billion naira to 768 million naira, while its earnings per share fell from 51 kobo to 10 kobo. It's also a mixed performance for investor services and business support solutions provider Africa Prudential, as the company's revenue grew from 1.41 to 1.5 billion naira. However, its gross earnings fell from 4.48 to 3.9 billion naira. Pre-tax profits dropped from 3.29 to 2.63 billion naira, while its after-tax profit jumped from 1.95 to 2.08 billion naira, with a higher earnings per share of 104 kobo. And staying with company news, non-interest small-cap lender Jaiz Bank recorded a lower gross profit of 4.14 billion naira, and that's compared to 7.51 billion naira in 2019. Pre-tax profit was lower at 2.1 compared to a previous 6.16 billion naira. After-tax profit jumped from 834.36 billion naira to 1.78 billion naira, while earnings per share was higher at 6 naira 6 kobo against the previous 2 naira 83 kobo. More company news. On the other hand, Fitson Healthcare reports a slightly resilient earnings performance with a revenue of 14.06 billion naira as of December the 31st last year, compared to 16.22 billion naira recorded in 2018. The company's gross profit also fell from 6.31 billion to 5.86 billion naira. Pre-tax profit jumped from 160 to 458 million naira, while its after-tax profit jumped to 312 million naira, up from 97.44 million naira loss reported in 2018. Well, let's see how trading activities performed at the Nigerian Stock Exchange today. And of course, the last trading day and the week of January ends on a negative note amid persistent sell pressure by investors. Layo Adegoke tells us more.
Thank you for joining us on the Stock Market Report. There's still no respite for the downturn at the equities market as investors extended profit-taking on blue-chip stocks for a fifth consecutive day. The impact of the sell pressure affected key components out of 4 out of the 5 key sectors of the NSE, while the market's main index fell below the 29,000 level after a 0.65% drop. Similarly, the price table recorded a negative margin of 11 gainers, led by 9.52% increase on Courtville's share price against 23 losers, led by 9.83% loss on Nigeria Aviation Handling Company. Meanwhile, total volume of shares traded for the day was higher by more than 25% when compared to Thursday's session, as 348.6 million shares changed hands in over 4,600 transactions, which were largely driven by the shares of Zenith Bank, Unilever and UBA. Well, that's the Stock Market Reports. I'm Layo Adegoke.
Many thanks, Layo. Meanwhile, coronavirus is still taking its toll on the world's leading stock markets as investors assess its economic impact. Let's take a look at the closing figures for the day. And that's it on Business News. It's back to you, Millicent.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Bissy. And now leading malt drink maker Maltina, they've launched a school sports campaign program called Maltina School Games to promote the development of children through sport. The platform is a series of track and field competitions that will hold across the country to grow future champions and will focus on secondary school students.
An active mind is a healthy mind. And for Maltina, what better way is there to attain this than through sporting activities? By seeking to impact at least 20 million school children across the country, Maltina launches a new school sports campaign, Maltina School Games.
The children's ability to develop themselves intellectually, their capacities, is fundamentally, it's not me saying that, it's everybody says it, it's also fundamentally driven by their well-being, the fact that they do exercise, that they're exercising from time to time.
With sporting activities ranging from 100, 200 and 400 meters on the racetrack, long jump, high jump and shot put among others, they aim to find the next generation of athletes.
Two reasons why Maltina is doing this. The first is that the Maltina brand is all about spreading happiness, and we realize that happiness and physical activity are synonymous. The second reason is because we realize that there is a huge gap in terms of sports at secondary school level, competitive sports. It is our hope that when we launch this first phase, we'll take a lot of learnings in how to improve for next year. But also for us, a key expectation for us will be to come out with really great short lists or even a long list of athletes that we can groom for the future.
So what do the winners stand to get?
At an individual level, the winners would probably end up with medals and scholarship opportunities, for them. Then also, because they've represented their schools, they would also have won for their schools some other benefits, from the brand.
The Maltina Schools Games will be a nationwide school competition for secondary school students. The first phase will see recruitment of children across 480 schools, with the finals holding in Lagos in March.
In just a matter of minutes, Britain will finally become the first country to lead the European Union 3.5 years since the Brexit referendum. From 11 p.m, the United Kingdom will enter the transition period that was agreed between the British government and the EU, meaning that for the next 11 months, the UK remains an EU member state in all but name. Here's Juliana Olayenka with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom in London. After 47 years of membership, Britain has officially left the European Union. There have been 4 years of heated debate, 2 general elections, and now the UK enters into an 11-month transitional period where the country's relationship with the bloc will mostly stay the same. Westminster has until the end of the year to try and secure a trade deal with Brussels. The mood in Britain, much like the decision to leave, is divided. For some, relief. For others, commiserations.
I voted to remain in the referendum and indeed campaigned for that. We got the result we didn't want, and that's it. We have to accept that. And my position is that we are close to Europe. We must maintain that trading relationship.
I often hear that. I'm struck by the fact that over the past few years, we've seen again the power of an abiding friendship in action. A friendship that brought peace, reconciliation and prosperity to Europe and has helped to protect peace here in Ireland as we went through this first difficult phase of Brexit. The UK leaving is not a cause of celebration for us. There will be no issuing of commemorative coins for this event. But we do celebrate the solidarity that has been shown by our EU partners, and we say thank you to our fellow Europeans.
I think it will be like the same. I mean, England wasn't really in Europe even before, so it's the same.
I love Britain. I will still love Britain. But it's sad, it's like a divorce, and I will always love Britain anyway.
From a French perspective, it's I don't know. I think it's a sad day in the sense that we're sort of closing up as opposed to opening up, which I believe, the right way is to open up to the world as opposed to close our doors. And I honestly feel a little sad today.
On Monday, the Prime Minister will begin to flesh out the details of the trade deal in the House of Commons, marking the beginning of a generational change in Britain. Russia and Italy has become the latest countries to report their first case of the new deadly coronavirus. Earlier, Britain also confirmed their first cases, involving 2 members of the same family. In Germany, officials confirmed their 6th case, this time involving a young child. The virus is spreading rapidly in Europe. The deadly infection first emerged in China's central province of Hubei and has killed more than 200 people so far and infected almost 10,000 people across the world. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has met with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as both countries seek to smooth over relations over the ongoing impeachment trial of President Donald Trump. Ukraine was thrust into a domestic political battle in Washington last year. As Trump faced allegations, he pressured Zelensky to investigate the son of his Democratic rival Joe Biden.
And since January of 2017, we've provided more than $1 billion in security assistance. This commitment continues. We'll maintain support for a diplomatic solution to the Russia-instigated conflict in East Ukraine, and we'll maintain financial support for Ukraine's security. We will never accept anything less than the full restoration of Ukraine's control over its sovereign territory.
There have been clashes on the West Bank between Palestinians and Israeli soldiers over US President Donald Trump's controversial peace plan. The proposal, which allows Israel to maintain control of long-contested West Bank settlements, has drawn widespread Palestinian condemnation but praise from Israel. Activists have burned US and Israeli flags. Iraq's leading Shiite cleric has called for an early general election. Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani also condemned the use of force to disperse protest camps across the country. The security forces stepped up a crackdown against demonstrators. Protesters across Iraq are seeking the removal of what they see as a corrupt ruling elite and an end to foreign interference in Iraqi politics. Nearly 500 people have been killed in the unrest, which began in October. And finally, Grammy Award-winning rapper turned actor 50 Cent has been honoured with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He was surrounded by guests, including Dr. Dre and Eminem. 50 Cent, whose real name is Curtis Jackson, rose to fame following the release of his hit debut album, Get Rich or Die Trying, in 2003. He went on to become one of the world's best-selling rappers and is the producer of the hit Netflix series Power. And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Thank you, Juliana. Still ahead on the news at 10, is it an end for Dominic Thiem as he sets up a showdown against defending champion Novak Djokovic in the Australian Open final? You'll see that on Sports News. Please stay with us.